Hi folks, welcome back. This will be episode 9 of the Norton Commando project. This will be the final section on engine assembly, unless something goes terribly wrong. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, I'm at the point where I'm getting the pistons on there. I've already checked them for fit and the bores are perfect. I've checked the piston rings as well. Everything's all set to go. I got the snap rings all in there on the right hand piston. Left one, I've only got one left to go. I thought I'd mention to you an old thing that an old vocational school teacher taught me when I was a young man. So you look carefully at that snap ring, you can see that the edges are slightly rounded on this side where the thing is stamped out of steel, but if you turn it the other way, it's quite sharp on the edges there. Put that sharp side out, so that way when they're in when they're in the wrist pin groove, that they're going to have a tendency to stay there better this way than they would if they were around that way with that round edge facing outward. I'm trying to get that to focus here. Anyway, and another thing with these, you make sure that the gap after this is in there is either down or up. You don't really want them facing sideways like that, because the cyclic motion of the pistons could actually cause them to come loose. I've never heard of that happening to anybody, but if you think about it, if that was moving up and down there at 9,000 RPM or something, you know, that's way over the recommended rid line for these things, but something could happen to them. So make them either down or up and you'll be better off. The other thing I just wanted to mention real quick was that these pistons in these Norton twins are left and right handed. You can see that the valves are slewed from one side to the other, and the large cutaway always goes toward the intake valve, the small cutaway going toward the exhaust. Alright, I'll get on with this. Okay, I happen to be using these 3-piece oil rings here. And I just wanted to mention something that's very important about installing these. As you can see, there's red and green there in that expander spring. You want to make sure that the two ends of that spring where that red and green are butted together, not overlapped, or you'll end up burning oil like crazy. So anyway, let me show you on the other ring. I'll get rid of this flashlight here. I can't do this with two hands. Yeah, so if you get the ring together and you see just green or just red, that's wrong. Stop the process and get it repaired, because that's what you want to see. The green and the red butted up against each other like that. Alright, I'm ready to put those jugs on over the pistons and do my old zip tie trick again on the compressor vanes. Again, I like to do that because the zip ties just seem to be able to keep the right amount of pressure on the rings without grabbing the piston too tightly. That way things tend to slip down easily down over it. So say a little prayer for me. Everything's lubed up in there. The camshaft all nicely lubed, and the tappets are all lubed up, cylinders lubed, pistons are lubed, rings are lubed. I even sprayed a little rust check down in there on the crank and stuff, just to make sure that, you know, nothing rusts up in there while the engine's sitting to wait to go back in the bike. So anyway, I'm going to grab them cylinders. Pray for me. Pray to the gods of engine assembly. Let's see what happens here. Alright. Are sitting on compressor bands. Give it a little push down and pray. Hey, I got it like that. Yep. Right down there, right perfectly. Good. No oil pressure rails sticking out there or anything, so I can cut these zip ties off of here and put the cylinder down, and we should be in business. Hey, there it is, all back together. Cylinders, as you saw, slipped on real easy, textbook perfect. Tighten up the the base nuts. Cylinder head, same thing, went on just textbook perfect. Didn't have any issues. You can make this a little easier for yourself if you put the engine at top dead center and back off the valve adjusters. That way you're not trying to push the valves open as you screw the cylinder head nuts and bolts down. So anyway, like I said, it's all back together. Next thing to do, I guess, would be to get some timing in there. I'm going to use the standard ignition because I got to tell you, the ones that came with this were just like brand new. So anyway, I'll just clean the points faces up, and I'm going to stick everything back in. I'll set the timing up with that degree wheel right over there behind the scissors, and that should be about as perfect as you could get. Anyhow, that's just about it. Okay, well, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. As you can see, I have my degree wheel set up on the end of the crankshaft there, and the old surface plate pointer just pointing to 0 at, of course, top center, and then 28 degrees, I believe, is the timing mark for these. At least that's what it said in the manual I'm working with for this particular model. Let's see now. When you lose your timing, like when you remove the timing advance mechanism from these ones, there's no locating pin like what you'd find in a Triumph, for example, to hold that timing advance mechanism. So what you do is you line up the pivot points on the flyweights with the holes where these lock bolts mount into, and that's where you set that up. It gives you an approximate value for setting up your plate. Anyway, the plate was real easy to clean up. I just cleaned up the points with a little bit of very fine garnet paper, cleaned them out with the good old points cleaning spray after that. Some of that stuff, I gotta warn you, some of that stuff is flammable, so make sure it's dry before you put any power to anything. I almost caught a scooter on fire one day from making that mistake. Anyway, I won't do that again, but just a little heads up. The stuff you get may not be flammable. I don't know, but the stuff I get, it is. So just something to be aware of. I've set the gaps at 15 thou on the points, and geez, when I got everything in there, it was just about perfect to start with. Anyways, I made my adjustments as needed. So the timing was done statically, of course, because I used an ohmmeter to tell me when the points were starting to open up. So anyway, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this part of the Norton rebuild. I'll be getting on, I think, with the transmission next to find out what's in there. Anyway, I'm going to put the cover back on there. Let me just grab a screwdriver. I know I've got one laying around here somewhere. That's one thing I got to do before I do anything else, is clean up this workbench, because it's an absolute bloody mess, and I'm a little bit embarrassed about that. So anyway, let me just get these screws in here. There is a little hole in the bottom of this cover in case you get any oil in here. And anyway, if you like this video or the series of videos, you can click like and subscribe, maybe even share it. If you subscribe, like I said before, that could really help the channel if you do that, and you'll know when the next video comes out. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully the next time I'll have the transmission apart and we'll find out what's in there.